Welcome to Headlines, the news you might have missed, delivered from my backyard. Tony Abbott, as God's true representative on earth, has handed down the 11th commandment this week in the form of draft legislation to repeal the carbon tax. Thou shalt not inhibit big business has promptly been chiselled into all Liberal copies of the commandments this week, as the Prime Minister warns Labor to repent of their support of the carbon tax. Among the literate and the sane, debate still rages. Does Tony Abbott actually believe that his direct action plan is more than just a redistribution of wealth upwards? Or is he really just a slimy little toad? More information on his toadiness as it comes to hand. And don't forget, we may have refused to become a world leader in renewable energies, but we still have the chance to be the first country to repeal the price on carbon. The Moses Project, a multi-billion-dollar set of flood barriers to protect Venice from floodwaters, has passed its first real test. Last week, Venice tested the first 4 barriers, each weighing over 300 tonnes. Most of the time, these barriers sit at the bottom of the channel, only engaging at high tides when they're pumped full of air and they rise to the surface. The test supported the viability of the method, which will see 78 of these barriers placed across the mouth of Venice's lagoon by 2016. The project has become a necessity, as flooding has increased in the last 200 years as sea levels rise and the city sinks. Do you get frustrated when you throw something for your dog or cat, and no matter how furiously you point, the animal just stares at your finger, failing to grasp what must be the easiest to understand directive? Well then, get yourself an elephant. Scientists have shown this week that elephants intuitively understand the concept of pointing, and even use it themselves in the wild. This innate understanding underscores some of the similarities between human and elephant cognition. This is quite interesting, because our closest relatives, the primates, can learn to utilise the gesture when in captivity, or when in groups that have previously been taught the gesture, but there's no evidence that they use pointing out in the wild without human intervention. And to weird news. A judge has ruled that an Ohio man that was declared legally dead in 1994 cannot be declared officially alive, despite turning up healthy and happy. Donald Miller ran out on his wife and 2 kids in 1986 after losing his job and racking up considerable debts. He disappeared until 2005 when he tried to apply for a driver's license. He then found out he'd been declared legally dead 11 years before. The judge last week ruled that because Ohio law states that a death ruling can't be overturned after more than 3 years, Donald was going to have to stay legally dead. And lastly, the dissident Chinese artist Ai Weiwei has opened his new version of his work called Forever Bicycles in Toronto. Have a look. With iterations in several cities around the world, the Toronto installation utilises the greatest number of bicycles, 3,144. The work gives you a pretty powerful sense that you're moving through bike space, or that you're tripping balls in a hipster's wet dream.